I have always loved playing sports, but when I was young, I didn't like to read. Did you know that girls have 2/3 fewer literary role models for their participation in sports as boys do? The Melpomene Journal published a study that showed that out of 105 books that were surveyed, only 28 encouraged girls to participate in sports. An April 2011 issue of Gender and Society also published a study that showed of almost 6,000 children's books that were published between the years 1900 and 2000, 57% had male main characters, where 31% had female main characters. Now, I can only imagine out of that 31%, how many were princesses. Now, the Surgeon General's report tells us that not even half of our youth between the ages of 12 and 21 are vigorously active on a regular basis. And girls are 50% less likely to be vigorously active than boys. But we know the benefits to girls participating in sports: decreased stress and depression, decreased unwanted pregnancy, increase in body image and self-esteem, bone density, and improved grades, and those are just for starters. So I want you to think about right now your own self at age 6, 7, 8 years old. And I want you to imagine your little self playing. And think about the things that you like to do. Raise your hand if when you were that age, you liked to ride a bike, go swimming, gymnastics, dancing, basketball, soccer, softball. Okay, you got the picture. All right, so you're imagining the things that you're doing. What did you like about what you were playing? How did it make you feel? As a children's book author, every month I go into elementary schools and I'm asking girls and boys these same things. Hundreds are telling me they love how free they feel. They love being with their friends. They love feeling strong. They like feeling like they're accomplishing something. They feel happy. Only once out of thousands has a child ever said that they enjoy winning. And girls are playing sports. Another study showed that 76% of girls reported fun as the primary reason for their participation in sports. And as you think about that, girls are starting to participate in sports 2 years later than boys, which means they're not experiencing success early on, and success is fun. So if they're not experiencing success, they're experiencing less fun, and therefore less likely to continue playing. But participating in sports was instrumental in my life. When I was young, I loved to climb and run and jump and play basketball and football and hockey and tennis and volleyball and gymnastics, and you name it, I loved to do it. In the dead of winter, I would go outside, and after dinner, it's dark out in Minnesota, right? And I'd flick on the floodlight, and I'd shovel off the basketball court, and I would practice shooting and my ball handling for hours. To my father's dismay in the summer, I would practice pitching baseballs against the side of the garage for hours, leaving dozens of dents. I loved to play alone, and I loved to play with friends. I slept with my football and basketball, especially when I was sick. I loved playing for how free I felt and how it made me feel, like I was strong and I was getting stronger. And sports took me a lot of places in my life. In high school, I played in the state tennis tournament, basketball tournament. I was captain of 3 sports. In college, I played basketball, golf, rugby. I coached high school and collegiate sports. And I even landed a job working in the WNBA, leading one of the sales organizations. I learned a lot of life lessons playing sports. I developed lifelong friendships, leadership skills. I learned how to push myself physically and mentally. I learned how to lose, and I learned how to win. In fact, in my life, I lost far more games than I ever won. And I learned how to be a role model. There was one particular moment in my life that was defining for me as it related to being a role model athlete. It was my senior year of high school, and after being on the varsity basketball team since I was 14, I was about to become the first girl in school history to score 1,000 points, which is a lot. There'd been sort of a countdown in the local newspaper. It would show my picture in the paper, and it would say, Breen needs 36 points to score 1,000. We'd play a game. Breen needs 15 points to score 1,000. And it was time for the big game. Our team was doing well that year, and I only needed one more point to score 1,000. It was a home game, and the gym was packed on both sides of the bleachers. The cheerleaders made a banner with my name on it. The marching band was playing. The radio station was broadcasting the game. There was even a bouquet of roses at the scorer's table waiting for me. And then, during the game, the other team got a technical foul. What that meant was I would get to shoot a free throw all by myself. It's supposed to be a privilege to shoot a free throw by yourself. It was actually quite nerve-wracking. The gym went silent. The band went silent. My teammates and the opponents had to stand at half court behind me and wait. Under the basket was the referee and a photographer to capture the moment. All I needed to do was make this shot, and I'd have the record. Now, I'd made thousands of free throws in my life. Remember the cold winter nights where I'd shovel off my court? And I was known as a pure shooter, somebody with perfect form. Heck, I'd even scored 40 points in a game, for crying out loud. So there I was, standing at the free throw line. The referee hands me the ball, and I do my routine. Dribble, dribble, spin the ball back to myself. And as I bent my knees to shoot, for the first time in my life, when I let go, my knees locked. How many of you know what an airball is? For those of you who don't, it means that not only did I miss the shot, I missed the entire basket in front of what felt like the entire town. I was horrified and embarrassed. And think about how you respond when you're embarrassed. How do you physically feel? Some people get angry at others. Some throw a tantrum. Some get a lump in their throat and want to cry their eyes out. Some want to disappear. I wanted to do all of those things. But there were 100 or so young people in those stands that were watching me, their role model. And it was about time they had a strong female role model. So I swallowed the lump in my throat, high-fived my teammates who were laughing, and we kept playing the game. Because in the end, that game was never really about me. And then I got the record later on. So going back to the beginning of the talk, I want you to imagine you're 6, 7, 8 years old again. And now let's talk about reading. Think about what books you loved to read when you were that age. Who are your favorite characters and why? And when you think about the statistics that I shared with you earlier about the lack of female main characters, athletic female main characters at that, and my love and passion for sports, you could draw the direct conclusion that when I was young, I didn't like to read. And it's true. 1, I didn't like to sit still. But 2, I could never see myself in books. I was a strong little girl who loved to play sports, and there were simply no books that were representing me. So 10 years ago, I came across a Scholastic book order form. Remember getting those in grade school? I instantly recalled my childhood emotions of excitement and anticipation to look inside. I loved puppy posters or books about professional athletes, all male, mind you. And it was 2006. And I thought, millions of girls across the world are playing sports now. I wonder what books are out there portraying this. And as I paged through the order form, 1 page at a time, all I could find were girls doing horseback riding and cheerleading. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. This was 2006. How could this be possible? And that's when I became an accidental author. I had dreams of playing in the NBA or the NFL or being a pitcher in baseball. Never in my life did I say, I'm going to be a children's book author when I grow up. But it was time anyway. So I began writing about what I would have wanted to read at that age. I pulled from personal experiences, childhood memories of play. It was about time somebody had to do it. It might as well be me. And the end result is the book series, Shelly Bean, the Sports Queen. Now, growing up with 4 older brothers who always had me tagging along, I gave Shelly Bean some brothers. I always had a best friend. I gave Shelly Bean a best friend. I always had a trusty dog who followed me everywhere, so Shelly Bean got a dog. We gave her a perpetual grass stain on her oversized jersey, a permanent Band-Aid on her knee, and I was actually the homecoming queen in high school, so it's kind of like an autobiography. Princesses are great and quite popular, as you all know. But Shelly Bean is stronger than that. She's a queen who loves to play sports. And isn't she adorable? Notice I didn't say she loves to be great at sports. That's not her purpose, being great. She simply loves to play. And to reward herself each time she learns a new sport, she and her trusty dog Spike plop down on her bed and she makes a new charm for her crown because she's proud of what she's accomplished. And I want to read for you the last scene in each book that really captures the purity of the stories. When she got home, she changed out of her cold, wet clothes and into her warm, fuzzy PJs. She did one of her famous super dives onto her bed into a pile of pillows. One more thing to do, she thought. She gathered her paper, scissors, markers, and glue, and she got to work. She carefully drew a new skating charm for her crown. She'd taken the first step to learning hockey. She placed the crown on her head, stood tall in front of the mirror, and thought, I wonder what awesome sport I'll learn next. I am Shelly Bean, the sports queen. And thank you. Of course, I want kids to learn how to play too, so I've included tips and a glossary of terms at the back of each book. Now, thank you. The process of creating these books was a lot like playing sports. Rarely are we good at something the first time we try it, whether that's writing books, playing sports, music, fill in the blank. But if it's something we really want, we'll get back up and try again. I needed a team to support me, an illustrator, editors, production people, donors who could fund the project. I had heard the word no from so many agents and publishers that in the end I decided if I'm going to make this happen, I'll need to self-publish. It was about time kids had these books. Find a gap, fill a gap. And in the end, the best part is that kids like them. It worked. In August of 2014, the first 3 books in the series were published, and Shelly Bean, the Sports Queen, came to life. And in my quest to provide children a strong female character who plays sports in their books, something else happened. I experienced an unexpected healing. When Shelly Bean came to life, I came to life. See, when I was about 6 years old, I had a really bad year. My friend Christopher and I had been riding our big wheels down his snowy hill all afternoon, and it was getting dark and time for me to head home for dinner. And as I pushed my big wheel across the snowy street, I looked up and suddenly saw headlights. It was a pickup that had a snowplow on the front. I actually have a permanent dent in my right hip from where the plow hit me. I landed in the neighbor's driveway and suffered a severe concussion. It all sounds bad, but the worst part was that because of the head injury, I had to sit out of gym class and recess for an entire month. That was excruciating for a girl like me. But it was also about that time in my life when I began being sexually abused. It's an awful thing to be molested by someone. It changes everything. It changed how I viewed the world. It changed how I would prioritize things in my life. Self-preservation and very little risk-taking. I had loved playing outside all the time, but now I needed to look over my shoulder in fear the neighbor would get me. And he did. So now, Shelly's come to life. This Shelly and that little girl, Shelly Bean. She is free to play whatever she wants, whenever she wants, with whomever she wants, without fear or judgment. And girls and boys now have a strong female character in their books who plays sports. And I couldn't be more at peace. Rarely are we good at something the first time we try it. But if we really want it, we'll get back up and try again. Shelly Bean rewards herself by making a new sports charm for her crown because she's proud of what she's accomplished. What charms would you put on your crown? What are you proud to have accomplished? I want to challenge you to influence the next generation to value girls and women by exposing them to strong female role models. And think about what you can do when you don't see girls and women represented fairly. Bring kids to women's events. Teach them about influential women in religion, politics, sports, science, and so on. Make it personal. I chose the personal route of girls and women in sports because it matters to me. Find what matters to you when it comes to promoting strong females and share it. Find a gap, fill a gap. And if you fall down in the process, just like Shelly Bean, get back up and try again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.